guys, this is Veronica and Yuri at Impact Krav Maga. Today we want to talk to you about two scenarios on the ground, choking scenarios, one where the attacker is positioned in between your legs, what we call in-guard, choke attack. And the other one, the attacker is actually sitting on your hips, what we call mounted. First I want to show you the problem, what we're talking about. So right now I'm just showing you the problem, we'll cover the solution in a couple of seconds. So one position is where I am on the ground. My attacker is in between my legs and he's choking me from this position. The other scenario is a scenario where he's actually sitting on my hips and also choking from this scenario. So these are the two problems that we're going to talk about today. Before we talk about the solutions on the ground, let's quickly review some of the solutions that we have standing, based on some of the natural responses that we have. So both solutions take into consideration the use of hooks with our hands to release the choke. Sometimes we use both hands to release the choke. Sometimes we'll use one hand to release the choke and the other one is used for striking. Solution number one, I'm using two-handed choke release, immediately striking to a vulnerable target, a couple of strikes, and get out of there. The next solution is, so this solution, I still form the hook, thumbless hook, as close to the throat, base of their thumb as possible. I'm plucking and striking at the same time, and of course flowing with combatives. Both solutions, standing up, work very well. On the ground, there is a preference whether we use a two-handed choke release or one-handed choke release, depending on the position of the attacker. Are they in between my legs, or are they sitting on my hips? And that's what we want to address today, because of the confusion that sometimes happens among our students and students throughout the US. So now that we've reviewed the different solutions that we have standing up, let's try and relate what we do standing up to the solutions that we have on the ground. But before I show you the solutions to the different scenarios we're covering today, let's just keep in mind a couple of important principles that Krav Maga thinks about or keeps in mind when dealing with scenarios on the ground. First of all, when we're dealing with an attack on the ground, when we're talking about life and death sort of scenario, what we try to do is invest as little time as possible or spend as little time as possible on the ground. We're not doing a sport fight. This is not for points, for a trophy. This is a scenario where potentially our life is in danger and we need to get up as soon as possible. Why do we want to minimize the time on the ground? Different reasons. One reason can be that as I'm dealing with one attacker, there's potentially two or three or more attackers that are actually also trying to kick my head off or cause a lot of harm. The other possibility is that there's also one or multiple attackers, they have weapons, things that I have to consider. And being on the ground, in the restricted position of being on the ground where I cannot move very well and run, is a very bad position to be in, of course. So we want to try and get up to our feet and get out of there as soon as possible. Okay, so let's go to the solutions of the different scenarios on the ground. First one, the position where the attacker is in between your legs, in guard, choking you. So let me show you the solution. All right, let's break it down really quick, so let me show you. So I am plucking with one hand, I'm striking with the other one, creating space to insert this knee diagonally across his chest, and immediately I can kick, or if I can't kick immediately, then I switch positions on my leg. Don't let go of this hand until you land the first kick to the face. So the confusion arises in this position on whether I do a two-handed pluck release or one-handed pluck release. So it seemed like it's a small nuance in the technique, but it's actually a very important one because it can make the situation worse or better. Let me show you really quick. I'll show you from a little bit of an angle. So from this position, look, if I do a two-handed choke release, look at what happens to my attacker's body. Because his weight is forward towards my throat, when I do a two-handed pluck release, his weight goes forward on top of me, and I find myself in a worse position. Instead, if I do one-hand pluck release and at the same time a strike towards the face, a strike towards the throat, and a pushing action, there's going to be now space to put my leg between him and I, immediately create an opportunity to land the strike, eventually to get up and go. This is one solution in Krav Maga we like because it covers the principles of creating distance, creating an opportunity to get up as soon as possible, and not spending too much time on the ground. So are there other solutions from this position? Absolutely. I can show you one of them really quick. So let's switch positions. Is this. So the solution is a position where I improve a little bit my position to create an arm bar. It is a little bit more technically challenging, so under stress it could be a little bit difficult sometimes to perform. And also, I don't know if you noticed, but when I do an arm bar, look at the position of the attacker. He's still on top of me. So I still, after I set up the arm bar and create break or pain on the attacker, I still have to get myself out of the position, meaning where the attacker is not on top of me, and standing up. So it takes a little bit longer for me to get up to my feet. Let's now address the next problem. So the next problem is when the attacker is sitting on my hips, choking me, what we call mounted position. Let me show you the solution, and then we'll break it down really quick. In order to improve the position, meaning I'm not on the bottom, I'm getting the person off. First of all, I'm plucking, but importantly, I'm bringing my hips up. So this destabilizes the attacker. Then I'm going to shift my weight onto one shoulder as I continue to increase the height of my hips. Once the attacker's weight is sort of falling diagonally across my body, this leg will be very light because all my weight is shifted to this side. So this allows me to turn with the hips up, of course, and be in a better position that I was in. Now let's address the confusion. Do I do a two-handed choke release, or do I do a one-handed choke release, and why is one better than the other? So let's break it down really quick. I'll show you with Yuri. So from this position, if I choose to do a one-hand choke release and a strike, what's going to happen is going to cause the attacker to shift his weight in the direction of my hips, of my feet. So it's going to put more weight on my hips, which is going to make it that much more difficult for me to be able to bridge my hips, turn, and improve my position. Instead, if I choose to do the two-handed choke release, what's going to happen is if his weight already is heavy on my throat because he's trying to choke, when I pluck, this is going to destabilize him. Now I can switch the position on my hips or turn my hips to one side, so he falls to one side, and of course I follow him, more strikes, and get myself off the ground. One important thing to keep in mind while you're doing this technique is to actually control the attacker's hands, or at least one of them, the one of the side that you're bucking towards. Why? When I destabilize the attacker with the two plucks, look at what his weight is doing. It's going forward, and this would be very common, very instinctive for somebody to do when their weight is going forward and the head is going to get ready to smash towards the face. So what I do is, after I do the release of the pluck, I control at least one or both hands, and I go, now I can bridge, controlling one of the arms without allowing him to post in the direction that I'm going. So one important concept to keep in mind. The next issue that sometimes arises, or could arise, is the idea of what about if the attacker posts with his legs? In this position, when they're focused on the choke, posting of the legs, it's not as likely, but we can address it anyway. One possibility, if I'm worried about him posting with the leg, can you please post with the leg? This motion, to prevent that from happening, is to trap his leg with my leg here, right before I do, of course, the buck and pluck. This could take a little bit of time under pressure. It could be a little bit too complicated to remember. But one other option is to just lower my knee further towards the ground and trap his leg. If you can see that, I'm trapping his leg. Now he cannot post. Now I can do the rest of my technique. Of course, defenses, struggles, attacks, they're very dynamic. So these are the basic solutions where we start from. But for whatever reason the attacker manages to post with their hands, there are solutions that we have. We'll show you the solutions in small clips at the end of this video so you can see. But in the meantime, please subscribe to our channel. If you have any questions or any comments, you can use the channel to do so. And follow us on Facebook, follow us on Instagram. And if you're ever in North Park area of San Diego, please visit us. Thank you so much for watching this video.